Simply buy a Streetwise 2, write your name and contact number on the back of your till receipt, and put your receipt in the entry box provided in the store.
Good evening, Eswatini, and welcome to the 8 p.m. news broadcast brought to you by Eswatini TV. My name is Nondobego Nzabgelogo. Let's take a look at tonight's headlines. The Chief Justice Bheki Maphalala has donated 20 blankets to Philani Maswati charity organization. The Ngwene community received royal blessings today when their majesties presented some members of the community with blankets through Inkosikati Magelankambule's blanket donation initiative. Gulp Eswatini has donated a ventilator to the Ministry of Health worth 150,000 emalangeni. The news. The Chief Justice Bheki Maphalala has donated 20 blankets to Philani Maswati charity organization. The donation was received by acting Lutsitsini Governor Lusenvo Fagutse at Lutsitsini Royal Residence.
The Chief Justice says the donation was inspired by Her Majesty's charitable undertakings, which Her Majesty carries out through Philani Maswati charity organization.
Mngani sitsengathi singiba konjingela asithe sibambise indlovu yemhlaba kulomsebenzi lomkhulu kangaka lewendako kunakekela bomkhulu nabogogo kunakekela nalabo lekubonakala ukuthi ba-disabled. Mkhulu kakhulu kumsebenzi wena wekunene wendlovu nawubuka lokuthi inhlangano yakhe wekunene ihamba wonke umhlaba walelive laKangwane. Nesive naso sikhulu ngalezo zizathu wena wekunene sibone kukuhle lokuthi asimbambise wekunene sikhombise ukuthi umsebenzi la wendako mkhulu futhi nemaswati ayawujabulela.
Acting Lutsitsini Governor Lusenvo Fagutse received the donation on behalf of Her Majesty in Ndlovukazi. The governor says the donation by the Chief Justice will surely touch the heart of God.
Loko lokwendile mehleli lomkhulu kanye namake wakakho awukwendele yona indlovu emhlaba wendele umdali lakathi umdali asende bantu asende umuntu afanane nathi nangempela abe njengathi futhi asifuthi nangempela wasiyambumba lo muntu so uphefumulela uphefumulela umoya wakhe uNkulunkulu lokusho ukuthi ke kude umuntu lode uNkulunkulu ngalo mphefumulo kaNkulunkulu. Siyabonga kakhulu kuloko lokwendile sithi umdali nayena nangelo sesiphambaneni edulu losibukela phansi lwafela thina sithi akwanzise konke lokhu letipho letiqhamuke ngesikhathi lesifanele futhi atibusise tanze lalapho nithethe khona emakhikhini.
On the news, I'm Sandile Makanya reporting with Themba Mamba at Lutsitsini Royal Residence.
The Ngwene community received royal blessings today when their majesties presented some members of the community with blankets through Inkosikati Magelankambule's blanket donation initiative. The outside broadcasting unit presented the blankets after being instructed by Inkosikati alongside other media houses to identify needy people in the country.
75-year-old Zombili Manana never thought that life would take a turn for the worse while he enjoyed his late 60s. A life-changing accident a few years ago left him confined to a wheelchair. He and his wife can barely make ends meet, as they say they have not heard from their children in a long time. Mkhulumanana expressed deep gratitude to their majesties for the food items and warm blanket.
Ngiyabonga emakhosini emhlaba ngoba ngingakalimi nje kepha emakhosi emhlaba angibonile kuthi nasi ikhala sethu ayethi unaphakathi.
The next beneficiary, Mantfombi Dlamini, is part of the vast majority of the Ngwene population who live in conditions of extreme poverty, according to the Member of Parliament, Philemon Hlego. She struggles to put food on the table for herself and her 3 children, who desperately hold on to hopes for a better future under trying circumstances. Here, the outside broadcasting unit delivered food items and a warm blanket as commissioned by their majesties through Nkosikazi's Donate a Blanket initiative. At Buselene Umphakathi, more beneficiaries received the blankets. The gift from their majesties was welcomed with joyous, resounding acclaim as their majesties continued to show that they are stepping up efforts to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 among the elderly citizens.
Asibonge kakhulu sibogogo nathi le sendolwa ngamakhosi etwanda kemakhathala amakhulu langaka nathi siyatimangala nje ukuthi inkosi yehlanga emakhosi asibona njani silapha ekhathi kulamakhaya njengoba nani into ibonela nje la sesifile lichwa naleli chwa lisiphethelele lenale covid kubanza kakhulu isigugubela endlini kuthiwa singaphumi la endlini ngoba thina thathi siyaphuma sesitawusheshe sife manje la endlini lethi sethi ukuthi akubaseki nemlilo siyatubonga lemakhosini nathi ukuthi asinike lethi ngubo sakwembatha sihlale ke la endlini sase sive na umhlaba sekuthiwa hawo abaphumela ngaphandle bogogo nene hawo sibonele emakhosini bayethe sinona phakathi wena ongibangezindaba.
The Member of Parliament thanked their majesties for their acts of kindness.
Asibonge singudla senkweni emakhosini ukuthi bethe nasipho lesilaphambi kwethu ntombathisa nababogogo ngalesikhathi la khona simo eveni asiso lesikadle sibona emakhata sibona nakufa lokukona sibongile nje naloku Eswatini emakhayeni lamabili lapho sihambe khona sikhanze ekati vele alaletiko babonge kakhulu bafana benkosi nibonile nani sendawufike nisibongele kakhulu emakhosini ngenhlitiyo lesibone emakhosi sive njalo la kungena usika noma nginini sibone emakhosi asukuma bantu babo babanaka kulelive sithi nje bayethe wena waphakathi Nkosi Dlovukazi Hlekazi.
Whether it is donating supplies, soliciting help from development partners, or in this case, reaching out to communities across the country, their majesties continue to help the nation get through the COVID-19 crisis. On the news, I'm Sandile Makanya reporting with Zulu Masuku at Nkwene.
The Minister of Labour and Social Welfare, Makhosi Vilagati, has visited 4 primary schools in the Shiselweni region to ascertain their readiness for the reopening of grade 7s on the 1st of September. This is part of government's exercise of ensuring that schools comply with the COVID-19 regulations as they prepare for the opening of grade 7s.
Following the announcement that was made by the Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini last week that grade 7 lessons commence on the 1st of September, the Minister for Labour and Social Welfare, Makhosi Vilagati, has visited 4 primary schools in the Shiselweni region, namely Sibovu Primary, Kupagameni Primary, Siyendle Primary and Makupeleni Primary. Vilagati says the purpose for the visitation is to inspect compliance to the COVID-19 regulations to ensure readiness for the reopening of grade 7s.
Found that everything is in order. In particular, the classes are clean and also keep in spaces in between the students for social distancing purposes. We also know that there is a washing where there is an area where they are going. The students are going to wash their hands. There is running water in the school. That also we have observed here.
The head teacher of Makupeleni Primary Schools, Roseth Gwebu, says with all the measures they have put in place in preparation for the reopening of school, she's confident that her school is ready to kickstart lessons on the 1st of September.
Started by training the teachers who were first trained, chairpersons and the head teachers by the Ministry of Health, cooperating with the REO officers to teach us more about the COVID-19 pandemic and how to fight it and what are we expected to do at schools.
Minister Vilagati urges all other schools to also follow the World Health Organization rules and regulations to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, Sifiso Ngumalo with Smuva Shongwe, Makupeleni.
Gulp Eswatini has donated a ventilator worth 150,000 emalangeni to the Ministry of Health, which will assist the ministry as it treats COVID-19 patients. The equipment was received by the Minister for Health, Lizingosi, in Babane.
After realizing the increase in the number of people who are being infected by COVID-19 in the country, Gulp Eswatini has decided to support the government by donating a ventilator amounting to 150,000 emalangeni, which will help the ministry to contain the scourge of COVID-19 pandemic countrywide. Presenting the donation to the Ministry of Health was Gulp Eswatini Sales and Marketing Director Fanim Tetwa, who has praised the role played by the Ministry of Health in the fight against the pandemic.
We want to pass a word of sincere thanks for the enthusiasm, the motivation that you have imparted onto your staff who are working hard every day, every week to contain the pandemic. We also want to take this opportunity to thank all health staff in the country in various sectors who are also part and parcel of the process of containing the scourge.
Minister of Health Lizungosi says the equipment came at the right time when the ministry is still working on the issue of curbing the virus.
Where we are seeing a lot more deaths, it means that there are a lot more people who are critically ill and people who are severely ill, and therefore are needing support of an equipment such as this one. So EMA ventilators, I know that a lot of people equate them to COVID, but we use them for COVID response, we use them for other responses as well. So we're sure that by the time we're done with COVID, we'll still have this ventilator to help us in response in health in general. So please convey our gratitude to Gulp, and thank you very much.
The minister further urged development partners to continue contributing with such personal protective equipment in order to combat the virus. Reporting, I'm Zoto Ashlameni with Mbonga Dube, Babane.
The Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy says the untiling computer systems of the ministry and that of the Central Transport Administration, CTA, makes it difficult to determine why the ministry has an over-expenditure on CTA charges. This was said by the ministry's Principal Secretary, Winnie Stewart, when appearing before the Public Accounts Committee.
The Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy has raised concerns on its over-expenditure on CTA charges. The ministry says it is not clear how CTA charges the ministry for services provided. In the 2018-2019 Auditor General Report, it was noted that the ministry overspent by 2 million emalangeni on CTA charges. The ministry's Principal Secretary, Winnie Stewart, says the ministry has for numerous times inquired from CTA about the charges.
Sisakhulumisana ne-CTA, na GTM. My team and myself have been there to GTM several times. Sizama lokuthi mhlonishwa ngoba i-challenge as ema-systems angakhulumisani mhlonishwa, there is no way you can make a breakthrough. That's the only challenge lekhona e-CTA. Lama systems akakhoni ukukhulumisana. Nasithi siyacela with our transport officers and US admin and tech. Uthi sicela sowusibekele sibuke nale, it's unlike nje nawe emaphoyiseni uthi sicela khona commissioner ukuthi tingoti tetimoto letentekile taka natural bavele bakhokhele nje le date lapha kumele emhlonishwa kube khona le I don't know le data collection nalama systems abo akhone lokuba transparent sikhone lokubona ukuthi sidlele imali lengaka nje sifike kanjani kuyo ngilalapho kufike kube nenkinga khona mhlonishwa lama systems akakhulumisani kumele ama systems mhlonisha akhulumisane kuze kuthi kube nencubekela phambili.
In a bid to lower CTA cost, motor vehicles from the ministry now refuel fuel twice a week, and those cars have written authority from the ministry. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Parliament.
The Small Enterprises Development Company, SEDCO, has launched an entrepreneurship distance learning program, which is a platform that will be used by SMEs to study and access learning material from work or at home. SEDCO Capacity Development Manager Samgelo Lushaba says this new learning platform has been introduced to accommodate those that are unable to physically attend classes due to their busy schedules.
The Capacity Development Manager at SEDCO, Samgelo Lushaba, says this is one of the company's ways of expanding methods of offering their services. He says the company has decided to launch this platform after obtaining information that most people who are unable to attend these trainings are hindered by their busy schedules because some of them have to run their businesses.
We found that the main problem that hinders people to actually come to our classes is the issue of time. People that are actually involved in businesses cannot afford to leave their businesses for 5 consecutive days and attend our trainings. So we then devised, or rather we thought of a way that would not be bound or limited by time, a platform that would not be limited by walls or whatever. So we actually then thought that we would then have to move to a digital platform.
He says the company conducted its research before going ahead with this mode of training after realizing that this platform may not favor some people in the rural areas with regards to access to the internet and access to gadgets.
Our research showed that coverage with regards to mobile coverage, for instance, we've seen that it is at a point where even the rural areas actually do have coverage with regards to our internet service providers in Eswatini. So we didn't really think it would be so much of a hindrance for people in the rural places. But then what would be a problem would be the issue of the gadgets themselves, because you need to have a gadget for you to actually access the platform. For you to be enrolled into the platform, you need to have a gadget. But then we also discussed that even the older folks now, even the older people now have access to WhatsApp, which is a texting or chatting platform that uses the internet itself. So we then said maybe looking at that fact, then it means that it's not really discriminating because the coverage now, smartphone penetration is high.
He says the registration deadline for early birds ends on the 31st of August. Reporting, I'm Lungilele Makakula with Patizo MCB in Babane.
Let's take a look at our sports news. Eswatini Football Association Chief Executive Officer Frederick Mngomezulu says plans are already in place to assist the national football team, Sihlangu, to resume training in preparation for the upcoming COSAFA Cup, which is expected to take place in October. Mngomezulu was speaking to Eswatini TV sports journalists in Babane.
The Football Association announced that the season will no longer be resumed after the government highlighted that with the case of people with coronavirus increasing, it will be hard to allow them to play for now. With the COSAFA Executive Committee and CAF executives announcing new international dates starting with the COSAFA in October and the AFCON qualifiers in November, this has forced the Football Association to come up with ways they will use that will see them return to action. The Chief Executive Officer, Frederick Mkomezulu, says they have a plan that will ensure the safety of the players.
Currently, when it comes to the preparation for training, we do have a strategy that will work for individual clubs and also even the national teams. We think and believe that once we get the green light, we will be ready. It's in stages whereby there will be individual training, group training, up to the training as teams, and up to even preparatory matches. We are not leaving behind the health aspect in everything, as at every stage, if there has to be screening, have to be testing, those are going to be done, so that we assure ourselves that the environment within which we'll practice our business will be as safe as possible and in line with the restrictions put by government and the proponents of health worldwide.
Mkomezulu says it is important for the national team to be well prepared so that when they compete, they don't just show up, but are competitive. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi, Mbabane.
The Tennis Association President Maxwell Jele says the lack of playing infrastructure in other parts of the country is the main reason why they end up hosting their tournaments between Manzini and Mbabane. Jele was speaking with sports journalists from this broadcaster in Mbabane.
The Tennis Association over the weekend had their annual general meeting where they also had their elections. Part of the agenda was also to look at ways in which they can take the sport to the other part of the country. Re-elected President Maxwell Jele says the biggest challenge they're facing is the lack of proper playing infrastructure in the other regions.
We use the facilities within the Manzini-Mbabane corridor. One of the major challenges has always been the issue of the number of facilities or the number of tennis courts, because hosting such tournaments requires, minimum of 3 or 4 tennis courts in one venue. I think what we're going to do now is that we are going to try and strategize and look at a way of engaging private facility owners. To give an example, is that down at Mhlume in the Sugar Belt, you've got the Mhlume Club there, which has got 2 tennis courts, if I'm not mistaken, and then you've got a facility not far from there, which has another 2 tennis courts. So we're looking at ways of seeing how we can streamline these type of opportunities and start hosting tournaments closer to the people.
Chile says they are looking at ways in which they can overcome this, as it's also part of their mission to see the sport played around the country. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi, Mbabane.
We will now take a look at the COVID-19 update from the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has reported 79 new cases of coronavirus in the country in the last 24 hours. According to a statement issued by the Minister for Health, Lizingosi, a total of 318 results were received today, out of which 79 tested positive, bringing the total number of COVID-19 confirmed cases to 4,304 since the country started reporting cases. The statement shows that there are 1,204 active cases, 2,936 people have recovered, 85 people have died, and 79 have been registered for care. The cumulative confirmed COVID-19 cases by region show that Manzini region has 1,941 cases, Oho region has 1,713 cases, Shiselweni has 346 cases, and the Lubombo region has 304 confirmed cases of coronavirus. Let's take a quick recap of the headlines. The Chief Justice Bheki Maphalala has donated 20 blankets to Philani Maswati charity organization. The Ngwene community received royal blessings today when their majesties presented some members of the community with blankets through Inkosikati Magelankambule's blanket donation initiative. Gulp Eswatini has donated a ventilator to the Ministry of Health worth 150,000 emalangeni. Eswatini, that is all the news we had for you tonight. Up next is the weather forecast. Good night and God bless.